Roger Federer, Alex Eala, a dinner table, and a photo that neither of them wanted you to see. The 20-time Grand Slam champion and the 20-year-old Filipina sensation were caught in a private moment that was never meant to reach the public. Not a practice session, not a press conference, something far more intimate. A quiet dinner, just the two of them, away from the cameras and the crowds and the chaos of the Madrid Open. The photos leaked anyway, and now the internet is burning. But it's Alex Eala's reaction to the viral storm that has everyone talking. She didn't run, she didn't hide. She said something that stopped the speculation cold.
Madrid, Spain, April 24th, 2026. A quiet restaurant tucked away from the tourist crowds, and a moment that would have remained private, if not for a fan with a smartphone. Let me set the scene for you. The Madrid Open had just ended for Alex Eala. Her second-round loss to Elise Mertens was still fresh, 6-2, 6-1, a defeat that stung, even though she had broken the OVA curse just days earlier. The Philippine flags that had filled Court 5 were being folded and packed away. The chants of Laban Alex had faded into the Madrid evening. Eala needed to decompress, to breathe, to remember that tennis isn't everything. And then Roger Federer appeared. The 20-time Grand Slam champion, who had retired in 2022 and rarely made public appearances, was in Madrid for reasons that no one fully understood. Was he visiting his old rivals, scouting the next generation, enjoying a Spanish holiday away from the Swiss Alps? Whatever the reason, he had made time for Eala. The two were photographed at a low-lit restaurant, seated across from each other, engaged in what appeared to be a serious conversation. Federer, dressed casually, leaned forward, his hands gesturing the way they always did when he was explaining something important. Eala, still in her street clothes, listened intently. Her expression was unreadable, but her body language spoke volumes. She was relaxed, open, trusting. The photos were grainy, clearly shot from a distance, but they spread like wildfire across social media within hours of being posted. Federer's camp declined to comment, but Eala, she didn't have that luxury.
Before the dinner, before the leaked photos, there was a practice session that Federer himself called special. Let me take you back to November 2025, the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, and a moment that foreshadowed everything that was to come. Rafael Nadal had officially retired in 2024. His rackets had been put away. His legendary career was now memory. But on a cool Mediterranean morning, he did something unexpected. He returned to the practice court. Standing across the net was Alex Eala, the 19-year-old Filipina, who had been training at the academy since she was 13, was the only player invited to hit with Nadal during his first session back on court in over a year. A year later, it was a great feeling to be back on a tennis court, Nadal wrote on social media afterward. It was great to train with you, Alex Eala. Next time, I'll be stronger. But Nadal wasn't the only legend watching Eala's progress. Just months later, in July 2025, Federer himself visited the Rafa Nadal Academy for a tour of the facilities. He watched young players train. He signed autographs for children who could barely hold a racket. And somewhere in that crowd, he saw the same thing Nadal had seen. A 20-year-old who had the potential to carry tennis into a new era. By the time the Madrid Open arrived in April 2026, Federer had been quietly following Eala's career for months. He had watched her beat Iga Swiatek at the Miami Open. He had followed her quarterfinal run in Dubai. He had seen the Philippine flags fill stadiums from Melbourne to Abu Dhabi. And he had decided that she was worth his time. He's been incredibly supportive, Eala would later reveal. He's watched my matches, he's sent messages, he's given me advice that I'll carry for the rest of my career. The dinner in Madrid wasn't a coincidence. It was the latest chapter in a mentorship that had been building for months. The internet is full of theories, but the truth is more meaningful than any of them.
Within hours of the photos surfacing, the speculation machine roared to life. Were they discussing an endorsement deal? Was Federer trying to sign Eala to his management company? Were they planning a charity exhibition? Some fans even suggested, absurdly, that Federer was offering Eala a role in his new pickleball venture. The reality, according to sources close to Eala's camp, was far less dramatic and far more significant. According to an interview that Eala gave just before the Madrid Open, Federer had been giving her advice about one thing above all else: handling pressure. "The pressure never goes away," Eala recalled Federer telling her. "You just get better at carrying it. But don't let them see you struggle. That's our secret." The dinner in Madrid was a continuation of that conversation. Federer, who had spent 2 decades at the center of tennis's biggest moments, was sharing the lessons he had learned the hard way. Other topics of discussion, according to those close to Eala: life after tennis. Federer retired at 41, still healthy, still beloved, still with options. He was advising Eala to think beyond the court. The importance of family. Federer's wife, Mirka, had been with him since before his first Grand Slam. He emphasized that Eala shouldn't sacrifice the people who mattered most. The Filipino diaspora. Federer had been amazed by the crowds in Dubai and Melbourne. He saw what Eala represented, not just for the Philippines, but for tennis as a whole, and he wanted her to understand the power she wielded. He told me, I'm not just playing for myself anymore, Eala said. He said, "You're playing for everyone who's ever felt like they didn't belong." That, more than any endorsement deal, was the gift Federer was offering. The photos leaked. The speculation exploded. And then Alex Eala spoke. Within 24 hours of the photos going viral, Eala addressed the situation head-on. Not through a publicist, not through a carefully crafted statement, through her own words, in her own voice. "I didn't expect this," she said, her tone caught somewhere between embarrassment and amusement. "It was just dinner. Roger is Roger. You don't say no to Roger." The room laughed, but Eala wasn't done. "He's been so generous with his time," she continued. "He doesn't have to do any of this. He's retired. He's living his life. And yet he still cares enough about the next generation to sit down and talk." Then came the words that silenced the critics who had accused her of using Federer for publicity. "If people want to speculate, that's their choice," Eala said. "But I'm going to keep learning from him for as long as he's willing to teach me. That's not something I'm going to apologize for." The reaction was immediate. Social media exploded, but this time in support. "That's exactly what a champion would say," one fan posted. "Federer sees something special in her. End of story. She's got the respect of the GOAT. That's worth more than any ranking point." Eala's reaction revealed something important about her character. She wasn't trying to capitalize on Federer's fame. She wasn't seeking attention. She was simply accepting wisdom from someone who had walked the path she was trying to navigate. "I think I'm going to carry what he told me for the rest of my career," she admitted. "Not just about tennis, about life." What does it mean when the greatest ambassador in tennis history invests his time in a 20-year-old? Everything. Let me put this in perspective. Roger Federer has spent his entire post-retirement career being careful about who he associates with. He doesn't endorse every rising star. He doesn't attend every tournament. He doesn't mentor every young player who asks. But Alex Eala is different. Why? Because Eala represents something that Federer has always valued: grace. Paul Annacone, Federer's longtime coach, said it best when he praised Eala's victory over Iga Swiatek at the Miami Open. "She did it with a lot of grace and humility," Annacone said. Those aren't random adjectives. Those are Federer adjectives. For 2 decades, the Swiss maestro was defined by precisely those qualities: the elegant backhand, the quiet celebration, the humility that never faded even as the trophies multiplied. Annacone, who spent years inside Federer's inner circle, was using the same language to describe Alex Eala. "She's got a smile that lights up a room," he added. Federer sees himself in Eala, not in her playing style, but in her approach to the sport, in her refusal to complain, in her gratitude for every opportunity, in her understanding that tennis is a privilege, not a burden. The dinner in Madrid wasn't an endorsement deal. It wasn't a publicity stunt. It was a mentor investing time in a protege who reminded him of who he used to be. When you're a younger player, I think sometimes you can get lost in all the opinions and all the noise, Federer once said about young players. But the best ones find a way to block it out and focus on what matters. Alex Eala, in Federer's eyes, is one of the best ones.
So where does the Federer-Eala relationship go from here? The photos will fade, the speculation will die down, but the bond that was forged in that Madrid restaurant will continue. Federer has made his position clear. He believes in Eala, not because she's winning titles, she isn't, not because she's ranked in the top 10, she's not, because of who she is and who she's becoming. "He told me I'm on the right track," Eala said. "That means more than any trophy." Eala is still climbing. The Italian Open in Rome begins May 5th. The French Open, Rolandgarros, starts May 24. The clay season is her opportunity to prove that Federer's faith is justified. But even if she loses early, even if the ranking continues to fluctuate, even if the critics grow louder, she has something that no amount of prize money can buy. She has the respect of the greatest tennis player who ever lived. The leaked photos went viral, but the real story was never about the dinner. It was about what the dinner represented: a passing of the torch, a recognition of potential, a moment when the past of tennis reached out to touch its future. "I will be back stronger," Eala wrote after Madrid. With Roger Federer in her corner, who would bet against her? What would you have asked Roger Federer if you had been sitting at that dinner table? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Watch 'Em On for more stories that go beyond the scoreline.
Roger Federer and Alex Eala were photographed together at a quiet Madrid restaurant, and the internet exploded. The 20-time Grand Slam champion and the 20-year-old Filipina sensation were caught in a private moment that neither of them wanted the public to see. But when the photos leaked, Eala refused to hide. "If people want to speculate, that's their choice," she said. "But I'm going to keep learning from him for as long as he's willing to teach me." The dinner was the latest chapter in a mentorship that began at the Rafa Nadal Academy, where Federer first took notice of the young Filipina. Paul Annacone, Federer's longtime coach, praised Eala for playing with a lot of grace and humility, the exact qualities that defined Federer's own career. The leaked photos were invasive, but the relationship they revealed is genuine. And for Alex Eala, having the GOAT in her corner is worth more than any trophy.